Talk about Troy Polamalu. That'll be obviously be a good segue into this. Y'all, you were two great safeties. I grew up watching the Steelers. I'm from Cleveland, but my dad was a huge, Steelers fan and things like that. So I watched y'all a ton. Troy was one of my favorite players.
It's crazy, bro.
I'm one of my favorite players too. Now that you're here, so. But being able to build that relationship with him, and then like also growing, because I feel like the first couple years in your time at Pittsburgh, it wasn't as easy.
Yeah.
And then, you start to build that relationships, you start to go on trips, you start to do things like that. And now y'all working together.
Yeah, our friendship came first.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? They didn't like me though. Like they were such like a close-knit team, and Chris Hope was there. Mm-hmm. And they were the number one defense in the league, and they win the Super Bowl. And so like that was their people. Like I remember, man, in the first offseason, they had a little barbecue, and Tyrone Carter was like my first friend there. Mm-hmm. And we were actually competing against one another. Just a great dude. And like nobody talked to me like the whole cookout, and it was just crazy. And like they kind of talked, but not like I wasn't embraced. And I remember Chris Henry, God rest his soul, we grew up like 10 minutes from each other. He runs the skinny, maybe like 3 weeks into my first season. I split him. Boom. Ike catches a pick, he runs it back. James Harrison runs onto the field, and he's like, now you're one of us. Like, finally a Steeler. But like
this is practice.
This is a game. It's against Cincinnati.
Yeah, okay.
Somebody said, hold on, bro. Like, what's up with this energy?
No, this is a game.
Okay, bet.
This is a game.
Yeah, right.
But like it was just that type of thing. Mm-hmm. And like how Troy and I got close, it was the off season in the summer, and like Troy did some different things working out. And he's like, hey man, if you ever want to come work out with me, you can. And I was like, cool, I'll come. And he had his whole garage set up as his gym. So we get there, and the first thing we do is pray. And so he's Greek Orthodox Christian, so it's different, right? Like I'm Southern Baptist. Like when our pastors pray, they dang near can't breathe in between it, like that's what I'm used to.
Be careful not to fall asleep.
Right, but it was like this set of prayers, and so we do that. We train for a while. Then like his wife cooked, you know what I'm saying? And so we go up and we eat and we're talking, and like that relationship just began to grow. I would go to the monastery because they went to the monastery. So like the nuns, the monks, the priests, I knew them all. Our families became close. He had kids much later than me, so like my kids were around more. And like we just would spend that time, man. And it wasn't, not that it wasn't, like we just kept getting closer. We'd eat together. And then I remember the year I got sick, he comes to the hospital. I think we had played, it was either Cleveland or it was Cleveland. And I want to say we lost, and he came to the hospital, him and his wife. It was me and my wife. I think it was like, I had been there like two days at the time. They couldn't figure out what the infection was yet. So I couldn't go to surgery. And he just came in and just cried. We cried for like an hour, like both of us, And then like he leaves. I had the surgery like 3 days later. They come back, him with the rest of the team. But he was, like, other than Coach Garrett Guimont, who was our strength coach, Troy was the only teammate that came by himself. Like, everybody else came in groups, but that was our relationship. And then even that year when I was sick and nobody knew what was going on, he was hurt. So every morning, like on Sunday, because we played a lot of primetime games that year, we would wake up, we go to church, and then we go to brunch, or we go to breakfast, and then we come to the stadium. Every game, our entire, from 07 or from 08 on, I rode to the game with him. We get to the game 5 hours early. He'd go home, like at the night at the hotel, he'd go home because he didn't have kids yet. Then he had babies, like younger kids. He'd pick me up at like 7 from the hotel. I eat, he'd pick me up, we drive together. On the road, we ride with the equipment managers or take cabs. Like we just did everything together all the time. It's weird, kind of my wife would laugh, but like every step, every week was the same, and he was a part of it until like after we took showers. Then I'd see him in warm-ups, and that's just what we did. And so we just got this, we developed a relationship to where I wanted to see him do well more than I wanted to see myself, and vice versa. And then we all got that, like the whole team got it. And because we could do that, man, there was just so much love in our relationships that, we learned to be one. We had the greatest coach of all time in Dick LeBeau defensively, man. And like still to this day, like we did the when we did Mike's episode last week, we did it Tuesday, put it out Friday. but his birthday was Thursday. His favorite player is Troy. He's a Steeler fan, you know? So I just texted him, and I was like, hey, bro, I need a favor. I texted him on Tuesday. I was like, I need you, it's like, you got any memorabilia laying around, can you send it to this kid for me, his favorite player, whatever? And he was like, I can't get it there by the time you do the show. He's like, but give me his house address. And he just does it, you know, and he always does things like that. Just truly one of the greatest humans I've ever known, man. And so, like, it was an honor to get to know him. It was a blessing for me because I had Sean too, and he passed. You know what I'm saying? And like when you're that close to somebody, like I was with Sean, and you have that relationship, like those relationships are like my two biggest football relationships turned friendships, but they were so different. You know, like me and Sean, man, I was 23, 24, he was 21. Like we were just starting, and like sky was the limit. Like everybody knew it that we should have stayed together. And then they signed Archuleta. And then like the last conversation we had, at least in person, we were on the field for the preseason game. And obviously, because I was coming back that week, they asked him questions about me, about like, is it hard to play without Ryan because he didn't play as well and this and that. And he kind of got like upset with him. And the way he answered it, if you just read the answer, it came off like, not like we were. And so he apologized to me. I was like, bro, I don't care. I was like, I get it. I was like, I would be annoyed too if people always ask me about you, you know, and if I wasn't playing like I wanted to. And we just had that conversation, man, and we talked. He talked about baby Jackie, and Jackie, who was his fiance at the time, you know, and he was playing so great. And then I get out of the hospital, and you get a call that he's shot, you know, and so, you know, you deal with that loss. You deal with the, you know, God saved me. Like, you know, the doctor said he didn't know if I would live. Doctor didn't know if I'd play football again. And yet you got this dude who, at least as far as football was concerned, by far deserved to be out there more than I did. And now he can never play again. He can never breathe again, you know? And so you lose that. And then, like, to have an opportunity to become friends with Troy and kind of get to relive that sort of relationship all over again, you know, it's just God. You know, I say it all the time, man. God takes care of babies and fools, and I ain't that smart. And I'm way too old to be a baby. You know, so I know what he's doing, man. So to have that relationship, to win a Super Bowl with him, man, and always have that sort of connection and bond, I think it was truly a special thing.
I think another thing about Troy I want to ask really fast. Troy always appeared that he was roaming, like out there and always looking like he was, you know, up to maybe outside of the playbook. Having said that, one, was him doing stuff outside of the playbook, jumping over the line of scrimmage, I think it was the funniest play I've ever seen at the Tennessee game. Hey, how much of that was the playbook, and are there any memories when you guys
Zero of it's the playbook.
Like, so when y'all get back to the sideline,
that was cover 3.
Day, my man, he was like the buzz defender, and he
was a flat defender.
So like when y'all get back to the sideline or the meeting the next day, like how was the conversation with the DB coach?
It depends on how it went. If it went well and it worked, then it was fine. When it went bad, you always knew because he sat in the front. And when it was coming, he'd do this. He'd look at me and go, you know? It was, man, but I'm sorry. It's one of those things though, bro, like you can't take that away from somebody who's that instinctive, somebody who's that great. And he actually couldn't explain it either. He's a savant football-wise, you know, like true prodigy. And we studied and saw football the same way. I think we both had like very brilliant football minds, but the execution of what we knew was different. Right? Like we'd study and then we'd either call each other or more things that'll probably sound funny on the podcast. We met every morning to do contrast together at like 5:30s. Right? So we just talking there like, oh, I saw this on film, then we'd switch, saw this on film, whatever. And so during the week, we'd know what each other were thinking. And he'd be like, RC, if I see this, I'm going. I got you, you know. And sometimes I just know and I'd feel it. You know, and I just told him, like, eventually it got to the point, I was like, you ain't got to tell me. I was like, just go and I'll get him down for you. You know, and that was the thing. Like, he knew he could always go. And, like, if I didn't get him down, if I didn't fix it, that's on me. It wasn't on him.
Right.
You know, and I tell coach, I'm like, that was me. Like, I told him go. You know what I mean? Because it was just, like, I never wanted them to be on him to where he couldn't do it, right? And so I remember vividly, bro, we playing Cincy. Cincy always just ran tear routes, both sides, from a certain formation, reduced splits. But we in cover 2, right? So I'm on the side with Ike, and I tell Ike, I said, bait number 1, go pick off number 2. And I was like, and I'm going to tackle him if they throw it, right? So me and Troy both in the halves. So Ike does it. I can't think maybe it was Andy Dalton. He doesn't throw either, right? But I look on the other side, Troy broke onto it instead, right? Which is totally wrong.
Yeah.
But that was the way our minds worked, right? We both knew the play. We both called it out. My mind was keep the integrity of the defense, right? Let one man who's underneath coverage roam a little bit. You fix it. And Troy was like, nah, we're going to sell out.
I'm going to go get it.
And I'm going to pick this ball off. We're going to score. Right. And that's why he has a gold jacket, though. And so those were the, you know, like some of the stuff, we knew it was going to happen. Some of it, we didn't. And I remember Coach LeBeau would try to, like, if there was things he liked to do, would try to, like, bastardize defenses to let him do it. But he didn't like that. Because he's like, the reason it works is because I'm not supposed to be there. So.
And that's even interesting because now you developed, you know, to have the one of the best defenses of all time, you know, scoring defenses as well. And then I was talking to him before this, and I was like, you get to the Super Bowl, and then you play
bombed on. Trash.
And you play the Cardinals, and so I was talking to him. I was like, if you look up like receiver duos now, you know, you look at it and you try to compare, like you got Justin Jefferson, Thielen, you know, Diggs, Gabriel, people like that. But y'all faced a crazy duo, you know, Larry Fitz and then Alquan Bolden. Where would they be ranked like today or something like that?
I don't even know, man. So
that's
mad.
still hurting you.
So mad, bro.
I saw a quote that said like when they scored, like you just felt like
you started trash, man.
You started crying, like, or not crying, but you felt you had tears in your eyes.
Yeah, we were finna lose it.
Yeah,
it was our fault. We so sorry, man. We were so sorry that night, man. You know, Larry was crazy that entire playoff run. And really, like, we had Larry kind of locked down until the fourth quarter. Fourth quarter, you know, we in 2-man. He catches a crosser. Me and Troy, again, we both knew it. We knew it was China. We knew it was China corner. So, and we the outside guys. So we like, oh, yeah, because, you know, once he go to the corner, inside guy gonna push up. I'm gonna go pick this. Troy the same way.
I was watching film. Y'all broke crazy.
Oh, he was out of there.
I'm like, oh my God.
We knew the play, dog.
Yeah, y'all broke crazy.
But
yeah.
The other thing is you expecting Ike to be like, you're not gonna catch this China, right? You're not gonna catch that. And when he catches it, nobody's there. He scores, you know. Then they drive again. They throw him the fade, and man, it was just one of those things that they made the plays and we didn't at the time. Luckily, Ben was on fire. We had Tone, you know, Wody, Heath, all the boys made plays, and, you know, we ended up winning. But for us, it was the letdown of, like, us not finishing the deal, right? Like, we didn't beat the Ravens because our offense was good. We beat them because of us. We weren't in that position because our offense was great. We were in that position because of us. And so for us, it was like, you want that 2002 Ravens moment. You know, it was the 2000 because 2002 was the Bucks, right? You want that moment, right? That moment to where, like, when we walk off the field, it was us. And not taking anything away from the offense, but we wanted to be the reason you wanted to dominate. And it didn't end up that way. And Coach Tomlin had to give us a pep talk before the last play because I was ready to quit. Now, you can put somebody else out here, Coach. I don't think I'm going to do it. Yeah. And it's so funny. After Lamar knocks the ball out of Kurt Warner's hand, me and Troy are laughing. He's like, bro, I was so scared that Larry Fitzgerald was going to moss us. And so was I. Yeah. Like, you know, if we sitting there and it's just us and him, I'm 5'11", I'm taller than Troy. You know what I mean? What if Fitzgerald come up and boom and win the game, which was very possible at that time.
He do it, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, man. And so Lamar saved us, bro, and we never had to deal with it. And, you know, we have a parade after that, and such is life.
Now, you played in a division where I think you guys are partly responsible for what the rules are, where they are today.
Our team more so than any team, I think.
Like the AFC North, you guys, the Ravens, Cincy, and then obviously the Browns. We always took the brunt of all those wars. But, like, talk about the preparation every single week going against those AFC North wars, because we had one team a year like that, Boston College, where, you know, you got to bring it. You know, it's gonna be a dogfight. But y'all games is just, like, different in a whole different way.
I think the difference is, like, that's who we were, though. You know, like, you understood what Baltimore was going to be because they were built like us. Like, we didn't feel like Cincinnati was built like us. You know, we didn't feel like Cleveland was built like us. Like, I never walked into the stadium in Cleveland and be like, they might out-hit us. Baltimore, he was like, could be trouble, guys.
Yeah.
You know, they got Ed, they got Ray, you got T-Sizz. You know, like, every place, that was the only team that, like, every place we had one, they had one. You know what I'm saying? Debo coming off the edge, T-Sizzle coming off the edge. You know what I'm saying? James Ferrier in the middle, Ray Lewis in the middle. Troy Polamalu roaming the back, Ed Reed. You know what I'm saying? It was like, there was nowhere we walked in was like, we got them at this position. Like, you knew it was going to be a fight, man. And, like, I love those games, though, because it truly brought the best out of you. And I can't go box or do UFC. You not finna have me looking like Adrian Peterson.
I'm mad that you just said that, because I was definitely gonna ask you that.
Why would I ever do that? I'm like, get punched in the face.
You took enough. Yeah, you took enough hits.
Yeah, like,
you took enough hits,
bro. We are going to sleep. Like, we got that. Like, our button has been tapped too much. Like, even when you watch fighters as they get older, they go out easier, right? Because they've been touched so many times. Like, there's only so many times you can let people press that button. So you think I'm finna let you press it for fun? I had to let you press it to feed my family. They're finna do this in front of people? My kids? Man, please. Hell no. And so for us, man, in preparing for those games, it was just understand who you are, you know, be that to your fullest potential each and every week. And then whoever it is, whoever wins, wins. You know, prepare throughout the week like you prepare every week. To me, it took more focus, and to me, it was more discipline to get ready for Cleveland like they're Baltimore, to get ready for Cincinnati like they're Baltimore, to play the worst teams in the league like they're the best teams in the league. Like, that's the aim. You're on autopilot the week you play Baltimore because you already know. You know, the truth is, I usually just looked at who we played after them because they had a very good chance of beating us, right? Because we was going to be beat up. You were going, like, your practice wasn't going to be great.
Right.
You know what I mean? You were going to be so depleted of energy because of that game. I was more scared about the next week than, like, actually that week. I knew we was going to be up for that.
I want to get your thoughts on not the current Steelers, but like a Steelers probably like 3 years ago when you got the Corvette situation going on, and, you know, Juju, and I love Chase, that's my homie, but, you know, obviously like the TikTok social media stuff. And I bring that up because you talk about the time when you was with the Steelers and the culture there, where it was like, you know, James Harrison, Ferrier, Troy P, and y'all not playing that. Y'all coming, you know, it's serious. And then same organization, same coach. Obviously, times are different now, but what was your take on it, like being just an OG?
I mean, it's like everything's hindsight. You know, like, if you do it and you play well, nobody really cares. Like, we all understand excellence. We all understand winning. We all understand producing. Like, Juju went for what? Like 1,400 one of those years. He could all that stuff he want on the, what you call him. Yeah. But you can't do all that, then get split and the ball pop up in the air. Right? Like, you got to start to understand that. Now, maybe the first week you still right? Week 4 now, maybe don't do it. Yeah. And so, but I also understand him in the sense of, like, this is who I am. I wasn't doing it because I was playing well. I wasn't doing it to play well. I'm legitimately doing it because this is who I am. So I got that, though. Like, I also get, like, I'm old, you know, and not old in the sense of, like, grandfather old, but I'm older in the sense that we didn't grow up with these things. Like, Twitter became big, like, toward the end of my career. And people got mad at me because they thought I tweeted too much. You know what I'm saying? Like, I enjoy banter. Like, I like debating, you know. And so I couldn't imagine if I grew up on TikTok. Like now I hate TikTok.
Right.
Like when people actually do TikTok dances, I say, do I look like I do TikTok dances? But I get it why other people do and how that branding helps and all those things, you know? So I understand it, but like the stuff like with Claypool that would make me more upset is like after Cleveland beat you, but Kansas City gonna beat you. You know, when he's doing whatever he was doing. Why does that matter? They beat y'all. Like when you get beat, you shut up and you go to work. You know, like that was more of it. I think the stuff with Juju, he was just playful. And he came up under Antonio Brown, who legitimately is one of the few people in the world whose life can be in shambles, but he can do that. Right? Like normally, if stuff is going on or you kind of effed up in other places in life, it like the field don't work. Like everybody's talking about like Tom Brady and certain stuff now, saying, but he's going through so much. I get that. Like I don't talk about that or use that because whether it's negative or positive off the field, that's not my business.
Right.
Right? Yeah. What he's going through there, I'm not going to relate it to the field. But think about like Antonio could really be going through stuff, dog. And could be filming Coach T in the locker room and then go give you 150 and 2 tubs.
Easy.
Yeah. And you say that because even on your pod, you mentioned that, you know, everything he did on the field was A1. It was like you talked about 152 tuds. And what he did off the field, you didn't bring that up. But like now, you know, I see you as like one of my mentors. I see you as an OG, you know, helping out the younger generation that's coming up after you. And you know, putting yourself in that position, you know, back then, obviously, it's like you mentioned, it's easier hindsight, but putting yourself back in that position, do you wish you said something to him off the field? Because
No, I mean,
but coming from how tight of a team that y'all were, you know, during those playoff or during that Super Bowl run, and you know, with Troy P and that whole defense, and for having him to come in and you know possibly split that tightness, that unity. I feel like a lot of it could have helped if you know, helped him off the field.
I mean, there really wasn't much else I could do, honestly. And maybe I could have said something eventually. A lot of the stuff is gossip, right? Because it's not stuff I'm getting firsthand. Like, you might be telling me, oh, Tone's doing this, but I don't see it. Like, he treats different with me. Like, I babysit his son. Like, my wife planned his son's first 2 birthday parties. We paid for him, right? Because we just saw a young man that was a single father trying to take care of his child, you know? And so when you look at all of those things, like, to me, it was a different relationship. And so when he does become the star that he starts to become, and he's doing that, I left before it became an issue. Like, I could see the beginning of it and kind of know that things are going on, but more stuff started happening that everybody would tell me afterwards. And by then, our relationship was so fractured, he wasn't going to listen to me, right? I was, in telling him not to do those things, I was going to be a quote-unquote hater, or I don't want to see him shine, or wherever these things are, you know? And so I didn't want, like, I just didn't feel like what I would have to say would matter. And there were other people there, but he was also now a leader. So what are you going to say? Like, who could talk to him? Ben, maybe, right? Ben don't necessarily understand him like that. Ben probably doesn't want to rub him the wrong way, right? Ben has his own family to take care of. And so I just think there's really nothing to do. And like on the other side of it, man, it's like, who's to know what's wrong with AB? Or if anything is wrong with him at all, and he's just a bad decision maker. You know, a lot of times we see people who are bad decision makers, who continue to be bad decision makers, not keep people around them who want to talk them out of making bad decisions. Because in truth, we want to be in spaces where we get to do what we want to do.
Right.
It's very, you know, you probably don't have a lot of friends who aren't, at least at their core, in some way similar to you, right? Whether they're white, black, Hispanic, Asian, whatever it is, they have something about them that you are drawn to, that you can meet as a commonality, you know? And so a lot of times those people don't necessarily see anything wrong with how you're behaving, because that's how they get to be your friend, right? If somebody's doing something that I don't really F with, I just don't F with them. So we're not even friends enough for me to tell you I don't fool with you because I don't want to be around you. And so he's around either people who allow him to be that way or support him in being that way. And so, this is where he is. But I don't necessarily believe he thinks he's done things that need to be corrected. I think he's solid with his decisions. He's solid with where his life is. And I mean, if he is, what makes it okay for me to not be?
And I guess one thing that I want to hit on before we get up out of here is obviously in the building is always that us versus them mentality, right? Where like anybody who's outside of this building doesn't matter. And that goes for the media as well. Now that you're in this media space where you're not playing ball anymore, how difficult of a transition is it in terms of talking to those same players? Because when you're playing, it's easier to kind of talk to those dudes. Or maybe if you're not playing anymore and you just retired and just doing a regular job, you can still kind of talk to those dudes and they're not looking at you as an outsider or as the enemy. How hard are those conversations now when you...
Not hard. I don't really talk to people who don't want to talk to me. Like the people I talk to normally either seek me out or we find each other organically. And so those conversations happen in a way where I'm not talking at people because I don't believe in that. I'm also very aware of who I was as a player. Like you'll never hear me be like, oh yeah, I was better than Ed Reed. I don't know that. I don't do that. I know that I had to work for everything that I got. I know that I was a piece or a part of a really good defense. I know that I was able to get every single ounce out of my God-given ability, but I know who I wasn't. And I don't pretend to behave in that way. If I'm talking about something that happens on the field, I can show you exactly where it happened on film, right? I don't speak to the character of a player, the intent of a player. I never say he's scared, right? Because you missed a tackle, that don't mean you're scared. You might have took the wrong angle. You know what I'm saying? Or he might have, your leverage might have been a certain leverage and you got pursuit from the inside. So you shot the outside leg and he was able to dip you, right? Or I know you're in the open field and you got to break down because he got a two-way go and he was able to run you over. That don't mean you're scared. That's ball, And so if you're inaccurate as a quarterback, I don't say you're scared. I say, man, it was pressure. Or right now you're squeezing the ball a little bit, trying to be perfect. But I don't ever. And so I think that's what people respect about me. I think the other piece of it is too, the things that I was in ball were such intangible things that are respected about football players that people get it, right? Like everybody knows I was tough or physical. Like everybody knows I worked hard. Those are things that like are respected because they don't have anything to do with talent.
Right.
And so a lot of the conversations I have, people respect me because of that. And I think the other piece of it is too, man, it's like I don't have no hate. Like I'm happy all these cats make more money than me. I'm happy to have more opportunities away from the field. I'm happy that they've been able to grow this game to the point that they can take care of generations upon generations of their families, right? That's why I was on the executive board of the NFLPA. And so I think anybody who I train or anybody who I have a conversation with understands that I just want everybody to eat. Like I'm not a crab in a barrel. Like I don't want to pull you down, right? What I want us to learn is that if I help you, right, instead of being a crab in a barrel pulling somebody down, if I prop you up on my shoulder, or if I push you up and put you to the top of the bucket, what's to keep you from reaching down and pulling somebody else up or pulling me up? But we always think it can only be one, just historically. It doesn't have to be that. And so that's what I try to do. And it's like, man, like I was hard on Trayvon Diggs last year. He had 11 picks, right? And so to the world, it's like, this man went crazy. And I was like, I ain't necessarily love it. And like, why? It's like, 'cause I see the yardage given up, right? I see that he has 11 picks because they were thinking, yeah, he might pick it, but we also might catch a touchdown. Or we also might get 40. I was like, I played with Ike. Ike had elbows for hands sometimes, but he was hard to catch the ball on, and it made us hard to score on. You know what I mean? And so, like, that's my foundation of, like, good defense. And when Jalen Ramsey was on our show, he put Trey in the top 5. And I was like, but he gave up, like, 1,000 yards. you know, and everybody's like, oh, you a hater, this and this. But if you know me and you understand me, you know I'm not hating. Like, I respect that he got the football like that. But I also know he was in the top 3 of yardage given up. Like, that's not elite level play. And this year, he's gotten less interceptions. I think he's played leaps and bounds better. They go away from him constantly, which is why he doesn't have the amount of picks, but he's made himself so hard to catch the ball on. And it's funny, we were shooting in Vegas, the pivot, and he was playing some game. I don't gamble because I like my money. He was gambling, and I saw him. So I walked out and I spoke to him. I was like, hey man, what's up, man? Marcy, man, pleasure to meet you, big fan. You know, and his coach is actually my best friend. I was like, Joe speaks so highly of you. Woo, woo. So I go sit down. He's like, oh, where you at? I was like, we right over here. I go sit down. I'm sitting like a chair like this. His chair's up here. And we watching. I forget what he's watching. He just leans over. He's like, what do you think I can do better? Then I had that conversation with him. You know, no hate, like true honesty. And I was honest about what I thought he was great at and how I thought he could be transcendent and the fact that I think he could be a Hall of Famer. But these are the next steps I see. And so now we have a great relationship where we bounce things off each other, or I text him after the games and, you know, we laugh about it and, you know, we talk about it like when it's great, like you think we could get it, or what do you think I should do here? And I think that's what it should be about, man. Like we should want to see these young dudes do well. Like y'all, like I want to see y'all do well. You know what I mean? Because like my son wants to do this. Like he just graduated in communications. If y'all could start this as young dudes and build it, who's to say somebody won't look at y'all and look at my son and say, man, same type of guys, grew up kind of the same ways, went to college, got their degrees. This is the type of people we want, you know? And I think that those things are the important things that we have to do. My hopes is that y'all blow up and then somebody puts y'all in contact with some young dude and they're like, hey, man, can y'all jump on my pod? Y'all like, yeah, absolutely. Like, that's what it's supposed to be about.
And that brings me to something that's dear to me, and I think this would be something, you know, great to finish on because so, you know, my career, I was with the Raiders last year for a little bit and then got released. And so my whole thing is like, what do I want to do? So it's like, for me, I feel like I didn't want to be one of those guys who was just like training and taking a year, 2, 3 away from, you know, the trial and error process, was what I call it. It's what I would say that I'm in right now. Because I look at the people that I went to school with, and I'll just be honest, just like, you know, white kids that I went to school with, athletes, non-athletes, whatever, at Notre Dame. And I feel, you know, if the league isn't an opportunity for them, they go get a job. You know, they go get a secure job making, you know, whatever they're making in 2-3 years, they're promoted, then maybe another 2 years, they're promoted again. And that get them about 28, 29, 30. And now, you know, they know what they're doing. They on a career path and everything like that. Been promoted a couple times. And my whole thing was like, I'm not going to chase something that I'm not in control of. And so I know my history. I've been injured. I had 3, you know, season-ending injuries in college. And so when I got to the league, I was blessed because it was something I've always wanted to do. But through those injuries, it's like, all right, it's looking a little slim or whatever. And I was fortunate enough to get there. But after I got there and I was at home for like 4 months and I was training, and it was terrible because, you know, as when you playing, you know, you're not used to free time. You're not used to, you know, being back at home unless it was a Christmas break or something type of break, spring break, things like that. And so come around like January, y'all got the pivot going, things like that. And it's like, you don't know this, but he noticed. But it's just like, while I was sitting at home watching the pivot, is, you know, a reason, you know, why I started my podcast. And so, which is why I reached out to Jalen and was like I'm early, I'm new, but I got to talk to him. I want to talk to him because I felt there are more, you know, young black athletes who try to play or, you know, get the opportunity at the league and don't end up making it and spend time training and doing all those things. And I had the opportunity to play XFL, USFL, but I was like, let me just try to start a business. Like let me shoot my shot and see what happened. And so I say all this because it's like I get to March and April and I shoot a text to Coach Freeman, Marcus Freeman, and then Brian Kelly, and I was like, I want to start a podcast. And I was like, I want y'all as like my first two guests, and, you know, Clark Lee from Vanderbilt as well. But I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be good at it. I've never hosted anything. I've never, like at school, I was always the one being interviewed. And so I was just like, let me try it. And so I went out and did it, and I loved it. And so I just kept on going. But it's funny that you talk about your son wanting to, you know, get into a podcast and those things, because how you were a mentor on the field and, you know, to athletes and things like that, I never saw. The reason why I chose this space for is because I didn't see young black guys in the space.
Yeah.
I see the guys like Full Send, and I see other people in the space who are getting guests that are a part of our culture and the people that we can relate to. And so I'm like, let me try. I got this network and things like that. And so the fact that the space, what, you know, it was wide open is a good thing, but it's also a bad thing, because I feel like we're so creative and we have so much talent that I want this to be another option for, you know, young athletes who don't, you know, have the opportunity to play. And it's not something like give up training, but it's like figure out plan B, to where it's like you got injured or you started coaching and then, you know, you got real sick and things like that. Plan B might have came real quick for you.
Yeah.
And you had no idea what it would be. So before we get off, I want you to kind of just speak to just mentoring in the media space, the podcast space.
Yeah, like, so it's so funny, bro. Like, I'm just living, you know? Like, and that's what, like, everybody thinks, like, we have this, like, magical pixie dust. We really don't. Mm-hmm. You know, we've been blessed to get the right guest, right? We have a super producer. Obviously, I explained to y'all about Alicia, so that helps. That, like, our show looks the way it does, right? And so, like, you know, we talked about it, you know? And so I think that's, so, like, our clips are captivating. We pick the right things, because a lot of people don't watch the show, right? Like, a lot of people just watch your clips.
That
you know what I'm saying?
Watch the show, yeah.
And yeah, you know, and like if they like the clips, it's like, I'll go check out this show. Mm-hmm. But they're not tuning in every week to every show. It's like, oh, let me go watch this one. So that kind of happens. And so we've been good. I bit my tongue like 4 times doing this thing, by the way. I bit it yesterday, and I'll just keep biting it. And so, like, that's kind of what we do, man. But far as, like, this space, bro, is what's great about it is what's scary about it. Because you can truly be yourself in this space. And so that's awesome, right? It's like it's a freedom of, like, man, like, I don't have a network to answer to, or I don't have to be what people need me to be. I don't have to fill a role. Like, I could just truly be me. But it's also scary, because if people reject that, they're truly rejecting you. Mm-hmm. You know? And so I think that's hard. Like, the way I look at it is I get to create. I don't get to create tomorrow morning, right? Like, when I'm gonna get up tomorrow, I'm not creating anything. You know, they're gonna ask me questions, and we're gonna do our production meeting, and we're gonna do all these things, and then I'm gonna go perform. I'd never say anything that's not me. Like, everything I say, I believe. But like I said, this, you know, like last week, we started with the 49ers in Tampa. And obviously they want to talk about Tom, because, like, Tom's important, but he sucked. And Tampa sucked. But Brock Purdy had, like, some energy to it, some electricity. And so I just switched the conversation in the middle, because I felt it needed to be switched. It wasn't necessarily that I wasn't me, but I understood this is the me I need to be in this point. Mm-hmm. Like, in this space, I control that. But also, people get to tell you that they don't like that. People get to tell you that that's not what I'm here for. You know, we did a 3-man show recently after Thanksgiving, you know, and I revealed that I had talked to, like, I had talked to her, but, like, my daughter hasn't necessarily been a part of our family since, like, I think it was May or something, you know? And that was really hard for me. And I'm kind of, like, in the middle of a lot of stuff, and, you know, it just came out. Like, we were just talking about Thanksgiving, and it just came out, because it's my space. I get to just be me. Now, it could have been people heard that and it was like, what you crying for? Or told me I was a bad parent because it even happened, or whatever it could have been. People could have reacted to that, but I had to be comfortable with that. And I think that's why this space is beautiful, but I also think that makes it hard for young black men, because is everybody going to embrace us, right? I know Kyle extremely well from Full Send. Like, we're all on Shot Studios. We're on the same channel, right? Like, we work together, you know? Like, that's why Happy Dad is one of our sponsors, you know? They have this niche in this place that they've created through their hard work, through the skits, but it's right. Like, you can sit down with the baby and you can sit down, like they just did OJ, like you can sit down with these people because they understand the platform that you've built, but also they're not judged like we are, right? Our culture will expect certain things from us and want us to be a certain thing. And then people who are not Black or not young or whatever they are will also have their perceptions of you that you have to battle. And you got to get to a point that you're like, okay, I'm just going to be me. But that's hard because, like, if you want to build a brand, you don't get to do everything for you, right? Like, we didn't get to, like, though Janet Kramer was about us because that's what we wanted to be, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was a step out, but we had to do that because we knew what we wanted our brand to look like. We wanted to be able to say we sat down with a white woman who's an actress and a country singer who's going through bad marriages, and we can have that conversation, right? We wanted to say we could sit down with a transgender woman who was once the greatest male athlete in the world and have that conversation. We want to say we could sit down with Mike Tyson, and we could sit down with Kevin Hart, and we could sit down with Taylor Rooks, and we could sit down with all of these people. We could sit down with a guy who survived the shooting at Virginia and have all of those conversations as us. Channing can be Channing, Fred can be Fred, Ryan can be Ryan. That's difficult to do. And we want to be able to say we could sit down by ourselves and we could talk about Deshaun Watson, or we could talk about whatever it is, and we can have those conversations intelligently and in a way that people are captivated by it. But it's not easy. And what I'll say about, like, guys who play sports who need to start a plan B is they should really, like, you should clip that as a question so people can hear it the way you set it up, because that's very important. I don't, like, our plan Bs were truly plan Bs, though, right? When in a sense, they should be plan As because we're always going to do the main thing. You were never going to shortchange football because you loved it. At least I think you did. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, definitely.
I was never going to shortchange football because I loved it so much. But I loved it so much, if I didn't make the other thing a priority, I treated it like a plan B. You see what I'm saying? Like, I treated it like that. Like, oh, yeah, I'll start working on my career when I work on it. You know, like, I got a job at LSU because I was just sitting on the sofa when I got cut. And it's like, they literally said, do you want a job? I was like, I'm just sitting here. Just got married. Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
You know, whereas, like, TV, I was in year 10, year 11. People were saying I was good in my interviews and stuff like that. So I just threw my hand in there and say, hey, let me try it. Let me intern. Then I become the first ever football player with a TV contract while he played, you know? But that didn't happen till year 10. Like, think about that. That's year 10, right? Because I was so focused on, like, I need to be good at football. If I'm not good at football, none of this happens. And so now when, like, young dudes come up to me and they're asking me, like, how to get in media, like, I want to be you. I'm like, well, do you play? And they're like, nah, I just go to school for it. You actually can't be me. Because I only get to do this because I won a Super Bowl with Troy and them. Because I went to a Pro Bowl because I played 13 years. So you got to do it a different way. Now I can help you or give you advice on that, but I can't teach you how to be me.
Right.
And I think that's the place we got to get. And there's a reason why that's important. And I'll close in a second, like church. The reason that's important is this. I can't be Stephen A. That doesn't mean I can't do every single thing he does. I have to respect him for who he is, how he got there, right? But because I didn't go through what he went through, I can't do his job the way he does it. But that doesn't mean I can't sit in that chair on his first take. That doesn't mean I can't host my own podcast. That doesn't mean I can't host my own show. I just got to do it my way. And the other piece of it is, like, and I don't know if people understand this, everything ain't got to be drug dealing. And what I mean by that is, like, everything doesn't have to be the thing that we find glamorous, whether it's the hood or your hood or their hood, right? Like, everybody wants the cool job. Every job ain't got to be, like, this is a cool job, right? Like, if this works out, this is a dang fun job. This is not, you ain't laying bricks. You ain't building houses.
Right, yeah.
You ain't picking up garbage. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, it's like rapping. Rapping is a cool job. You may not be good at it, but again, it's not hard labor. And it's like everybody think that their job they're doing, like, you got to be seen. Nah, it's okay, man, if you get a degree and become a teacher, right? It's okay, man, if you get a degree and become a lawyer, a doctor, a chiropractor, if you just a trainer, you know what I'm saying? If you manage a building, right? If you make sure you take care of your tenants and your tenants are well taken care of and you provide, like, that's okay. You ain't got to do a job where everybody sees your face. You ain't got to do a job to where you make six figures. Yeah, I want everybody to make six figures, but there is, like, true value in being willing to work, right? And being willing to provide. Like, that's our jobs as men. Like, it's biblical, right? When they ate the forbidden fruit, right? He told us, the Bible said, baby, since Eve did that, when you have these babies, that junk is going to be hard and it's going to hurt and it's going to suck. And men, you are going to toil the earth for the rest of your life because you're going to have to work. Like, it's biblical. Like, that's what it is. And so what we got to get out of the mind frame, and I'm not in any way saying anything negative about your choice. I think it's a great choice. I think you're good at it too. And I think you want to be great at it. But we got to stop, at least in our community, thinking everything got to be flashy, everything got to be popular, everything got to be seen, right? When them people called me and offered me that job at LSU, I was going to make $40,000 a year. And then I was like, kind of like you said, didn't be able to get promoted and do different things, right? I lived in Marrero at the time with my wife. We just got married. I had my oldest daughter from a previous relationship. I had her when I was 19. My wife was raising her too. And then we had our son. I would wake up at 5 a.m, get dressed, drive from Marrero to Baton Rouge, like an hour and a half. I'd work 8 to 5. I'd try to get me a little workout in. I'd drive home. My wife would have my food cooked. I'd eat, I'd shower, I'd go to sleep to wake up and do it again. The day I got the workout with Washington, we were on the phone. She was a pharmacy tech. She was talking about how she knew some people in Baton Rouge where she could do that. And I was looking, because we just bought a house, we were going to sell the house and then see what we could get in Baton Rouge. And that was about to be my life. And I was like, yeah, babe, and I'll see if I can be a grad assistant. If that'll pay anything, we'll see what you make and how much. Like, I was ready to settle into that as a life because I had to take care of my kids and I had to take care of my wife. And I was all right with that. And I literally said, like, I got a book, Power Over Praying Husband, when I got married. The prayer, it's crazy. The prayer I said before I went up and talked to Muschamp, I was like, God, I am very, very grateful that you gave me 2 years. Because it's 2 years longer than people would have gave me. Because as an undrafted guy. I said, and only if you see fit, I was like, I just love another chance. I'm walking from upstairs with Muschamp and my agent calls me to tell me about the tryout, right? I don't make it. There's a dude that runs a 4.3 at the trial. Who runs 4.3 off the street? He fails his physical. It's old school phones. My phone's not working in the airport. They're trying to call me to come back. I almost passed out at the first practice. Now we know I have sickle cell trait. It's advanced, but I didn't know.
I have that too, actually.
Yeah, middle of the practices, coach comes up to me like, man, like, they're going to bring people in to work out tomorrow. Like, you got to do something at this practice. I get 2 picks. They keep me. Watching the first cuts, my name's the last cut. They hadn't even called me. Didn't even tell me I was cut. I bring my bags over, and I remember my wife, she from New Orleans, black woman, she don't be playing. She cussing. That's mother effing wrong, right? She fired up because I'm her baby, like I'm her husband, right? And I was like, nah, babe. I said, when I said my prayer, I said, all I asked for was a chance. At the time I was reading Job. I was like, all I asked for was a chance. I said, he gave me that, right? And so like I was done. Like I was comfortable because I prayed for it. I got it. My mind, you're not good enough. Like it ain't for you. I was ready to go back to LSU. Go back in. Greg Williams calls me in and says, if we pick the teams today, you would make the team. Like he's pissed off, right? Like imagine, bro, like if I go crazy, you know what I'm saying? I didn't ask God for this one thing. He gives it to me and I'm still ungrateful as hell, right? You fast forward to that 11 years later, man, I played 13 years. I was an 11-year starter. You know, I played with Sean. I played with Troy. I won a Super Bowl. I played for Mike T. Like all of these things, bro. And it all goes back, at least to me, that I was willing to work at LSU. And what I was doing was I was calling my friends who had actually made it to like send them like the boxes and all that and make sure they was good when they came back. Like that was my job. Really catering and serving people who at that time at least were going to be doing what I was incapable of doing. And I was all right with that. You know what I'm saying? And so now when God gives me all this or all this happens, I love it that much more and I'm that much more grateful to it, but I'm also not attached to it because I know I'm all right if I got to go work at LSU. What we got to teach our folks that play this game, that grow up like us, is that it's all right to get a $40,000 job if it's an honest wage and you got a woman that loves you or you got a family that supports you and you're willing to do that. Because then if you get this, if you can walk through airports and people want to take pictures or if people want to come debate you about sports all the time, even though they don't know jack crap, right? If you get there, you can handle that better because you're okay with not having it. Because one day, another safety who can talk, who's charismatic, who's entertaining, right, who has less gray hair is going to get this job. And I know that. And when he gets it, I'm going to be happy for him, just like I was when the dude that took my spot playing safety. And if we don't get into that mindset to where things are what we do, not who we are, then we'll never be grateful for what we have. And in the end, it doesn't matter if my house is not as big as his house, as long as my house is big enough for my people. And I think that's something that as y'all continue to do this, man, always remember, yeah, I want the big guests. Yeah, I want this to grow, but I want it to be authentically us. And in it being authentically us, I want us to love it and be grateful that we have this opportunity. And I think if y'all continue to do that, man, sky's the limit. I'm willing to help y'all as much as I possibly can with whatever I know. And, you know, y'all just keep doing what y'all doing, man, because y'all doing it the right way. Y'all respect people the right way. When they sit down with you, you can tell that y'all are grateful. And as long as you do those things, I think you'll continue to be blessed as you do it.
Dang, you killed it.
Talking cash.
That was a way to close it. I mean, I was telling everyone, I was like, even just I was this week preparing, I was like, yeah, we got Ryan Clark, and it's not because of like who you are, but I was more excited because we always see you interviewing someone, we always see you hosting. So, and I'm grateful for this opportunity that you came on, you know, Varsity House to share your story, to give the viewers and the audience, you know, insight into your life. And so I'm very appreciative of this opportunity.
No, I am.
So we appreciate you coming out here. Also,
For sure, bro.
setting all this up, and definitely got to give a shout out to Jalen Elliott, who set this up from the beginning.
My dog
That's
Jay.
My dog, yeah.
My dog Jay getting married, man. Good for you, Jay.
So we definitely, that's gonna be a fun one. So
yeah, I'll be there.
Appreciate, you know, obviously in New York, and so we got to let you get back to work. But
Yeah.
thank you again, and make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, Varsity House Podcast. Follow our Instagram accounts, all of our social media accounts at Varsity House Podcast. And so, again, tune in for more.
My man.